Zdravá půda je plná života.
Healthy soil is full of life. Soil bugs, which are hard to see with the naked eye, help improve it and has been helping farmers ever since agriculture saw the light of day. Human activities may harm them, but they can also support them.
So far, we have been making their lives difficult. We are trying to get as much from the soil as possible as fast as we can. We increase the size of single crop fields, use chemicals and mineral fertilizers, and fail to take advantage of natural processes, sometimes even blocking them. Soil quality is compromised, and no one knows how long it will manage to feed us.
Ne, nejsme na Sahaře a tohle za mnou.
No, we are not on the Sahara, and this is not a sand dune. We are in a field in South Moravia. Soil degraded by humans here at the top cannot withstand wind erosion. All that remains here is stones and boulders, which seem to create a symbolic symmetry of once fertile soil. Before anything sprouts in this field, we can see big differences in soil color. Water collects dark-colored organic matter from the slopes and convex sites, depositing it in valleys or micro-depressions. Even if we sow corn evenly, it does not grow evenly everywhere. Success is conditioned by the availability of water and nutrients in given parts of the field. Intensive farming, combined with erosion on large fields and sloping terrains, may bring about such a loss in nutrients and organic matter that the soil becomes particularly barren, as for example in this field.
The ability to resist erosion and to retain nutrients and water is highly conditioned by the soil structure, which in turn depends on the organic matter content in the soil.
These two piles contain soil from the surrounding fields. The lighter one comes from the soil horizon behind me. It is eroded soil with a low organic matter content. The darker pile comes from a slope opposite us, which contains enough organic matter, as you can see in its color. Let us see how these soils react when we pour water on them. We use the same amount of water. Water runs through eroded soil much faster, which is why it has already ended up on the plate below. This one, however, is still dry. Water tends to soak into the soil and goes through it much more slowly. Let us try to see what it will look like with water running down a slope with different soils.
Na té půdě, která je bohatší na organickou hmotu.
As you can see, water tends to seep in soil, which is richer in organic matter. When we do the same on soil without organic matter, water will run off much faster and take some soil with it. On such a long slope, soil with poor structure does not stand a chance against a heavier rain. Fast-flowing water will carry away the best quality soil, which will then deposit in thicker layers somewhere else. In a short time, soil can become fully degraded. Landowners should make sure something like this does not happen.
Soil organisms and their activities have created soil as we know it. Even the most sophisticated mechanical measures or agrochemistry will never fully replace them. They enhance the soil's ability to retain water and nutrients by creating something we cannot, a unique soil structure. In this respect, we are fully dependent on soil organisms.
The inorganic components of soil include tiny grains of sand and layered clay minerals, represented by these flat cakes. They are arranged in layers, which leave some water among them and helps retain nutrients in the soil. The clay minerals are mixed with larger particles of sand, but do not form by themselves. They need organic matter to do this. It is represented by this sponge because organic matter is of complicated structure and porous, following all transformations. The pores retain both water and nutrients much better than clay minerals. However, it would not hold together just like this. At this point come soil organisms, which produce excrements, droppings, or many kinds of mucus and filaments. It is these filaments and excrements and slimes which glue individual soil components into small clusters, which are called microaggregates. Individual microaggregates are grouped together into larger aggregates, which in fact are the crumbs we see in soil. These things are slightly less than a millimeter in size and form the crumb structure of soil. We would never have such structure if soil organisms did not work the way they do. They are capable of gluing them together and creating this structure which no man or machine can replicate.
In order to make everything work, it is not enough to simply provide degraded soil with organic matter as a source of energy and material for the formation of humus. We must also make it possible for our invisible helpers to come back to the field. Sprawling fields may look beautiful, but they represent a huge barrier for animals and other organisms. In order to get there, they must travel vast distances.
If soil organisms are to recolonize a field, they must get there somehow. Although more than 1,000 times smaller than us, they have the same options: get there by air, over land, or get to the field on foot.
Going on foot can be a problem. Soil organisms try to keep to places where they have something to eat and do not dry out. Moss mites cover a maximum of 1 or 2 meters per hour, even when running away from danger. They are much slower in colonizing fields. Traveling 20 meters from a field edge can take them the entire season. It is much faster to hitchhike. In burrows or on the soil surface, these crawlies can easily hitch a ride in the fur of vertebrates or glued to insects, and they can cover larger distances using this bus. Even unpopular pests, such as voles or mice, can therefore contribute to the migration of soil fauna back to places where we need them, to distances of dozens of meters from field edges. Soil bugs can get even further by air, hidden in the feathers of birds. They can fly hundreds of meters, even a couple miles. However, air tickets are scarce and hard to come by. Sometimes they manage to colonize new places using wind. But such a flight must be survived first. There are different ways to recolonize fields, but in order to do it successfully, these tiny creatures need places in the landscape from which to set off. Habitats like this one provide good conditions. However, they are scarce in our landscape. The landscape structure therefore needs to be amended and changed.
Jednou z možností
One of the ways of helping the landscape is to diversify it by various elements, as you can see behind me. This landscape used to be covered by large fields. It took a mere 10 years to turn it into this.
pro moderní zemědělství je důležité využít.
Modern farming requires the use of machinery. In order to allow smooth operation of the machines, the placement of grassy strips must be strategic. If we place them in parallel lines like this, the machines can run throughout the field and strips are not in its way, while enhancing the soil fauna in the entire field.
Pokud půdní fauna znovu osidluje pole z okrajů, tak
If soil fauna recolonizes a field from its edges, it can get only within a certain distance, sometimes further, sometimes less, but as a rule, it manages to recolonize only the edges within a season, while the middle of the field stays more or less empty.
to osidlování probíhá samozřejmě taky z okrajů.
However, if hedgerows are present, recolonization moves from the edges as well from the hedgerows, which enables the fauna to colonize virtually the entire field.
Remísky, lesíky a stromořadí
Hedgerows, shelter woods, and windbreaks represent places from which soil organisms can recolonize fields. Places where they are missing can be restored by planting trees along roads or by planting some shrubs. Soil fauna must thrive in such species-rich habitats. However, the effect is manifold. These places attract pollinators because they house flowering plants. They are beneficial for birds as well as for small field game. And last but not least, they are very pleasant as a destination for our walks.
Dividing large areas may seem economically unsound at first, but by enlisting the help of the forces of nature, we can save money in the future. The increased initial costs may be covered by well-structured subsidies. Most of the produced organic matter is taken away from fields, either as food for us or farm animals, or as an energy source. What remains underground, which means roots, is not enough for soil organisms. This is not only because plants form small roots during their time-limited growth. As we use mineral fertilizers generously, root systems are not forced to look for nutrients and are much smaller than the roots of plants growing in meadows.
Krásně to před jarním lese hřeje.
What a lovely way to keep warm in a forest in the early spring. The energy which is released by fire is, however, potentially food for soil organisms. In this way, it ends up in the air. Plants can utilize the remaining mineral substances, but animals are left empty-handed. It is as if we set our own barn on fire just to get it warm.
Burning organic matter in biogas plants or power plants is virtually the same. We may get usable heat, but at the same time we waste a rare raw material that could fulfill many more tasks than simple heating. The seemingly profitable and environmentally friendly energy production through biomass burning starves the soil in the long run. and brings significant losses. We have known for ages that soil fertility must be replenished by supplying organic matter or fertilizing.
Hnůj neboli chlévská mrva.
Manure or animal dung is probably the best thing we can use in the field. It resembles the times when herds of large herbivores roam the country and fertilize soil naturally. Manure maturation is a process of fermentation involving millions of bacteria. Together with manure, they get to the field, attracting masses of organisms which feed on bacteria and manure. However, there is a problem related to manure. We have too little of it in our country.
Organic matter is rare these days. Fortunately, more and more people have realized what a treasure biomass really is.
You may wonder where fallen leaves, mowed grass, or recycled organic waste from households end up. The best case scenario is that they end up in a compost plant like this one. The produced compost can then be used in fields, where it will enrich the soil with organic matter which is missing there. A characteristic sign of organic matter decomposition is that it generates heat. Increased temperature combined with this material create excellent conditions for many soil organisms which find their way to the field with the compost. People think that it must really stink, but in reality, good compost smells quite nice.
The more we know about soil organisms and the soil itself, the more apparent it is that a regular supply of produced organic matter is of paramount importance.
One of the best ways of getting organic matter back to the soil is through intermediate crops. It is October, and yet this field is in full bloom. All this plant mass will end up in soil as food for soil organisms. The more plant species are used, the more varied diet the numerous groups of soil organisms can enjoy.
At the moment, the most commonly used plants are the yellow flowering mustard or purple flowering tansy.
This is what a tansy field looks like in late February. The once beautifully colored plant has turned into this gray dead organic matter. Scattered on the field surface, it prevents soil loss, and with time, it will decompose, becoming food for soil organisms, which in turn will enhance the soil structure.
O 4 měsíce později je to...
4 months later, this field is green again, but you can still see that tansies grew here in winter. Here you can clearly see that moisture keeps mainly in places with old organic matter, which is where the dark spots are. You can see how organic matter decomposes with white microscopic fungi growing on it. Let us take a closer look if we can see something. There are beautiful holes and miniature tunnels. It is burrowed through and through. There it goes, an earthworm.
Earthworms should be sacred. They literally eat through the soil, dragging plant material inside and processing the amount of their own weight in a single day. Their excrement is the world's most fertile soil. They work tirelessly, day and night, each producing 2.5 kilograms of the best topsoil a year. The more earthworms, the more fertile the soil. Their tunnels also help absorb water, thus retaining it in the landscape.
Earthworms loosen and aerate soil for us.
Surprisingly, dead organic matter is not the only source of energy for soil bacteria and fungi. It seems that supplies of fresh fuel, straight from plants, play a highly important role in restoring the quality and structure of farmland through microorganisms.
We all know that roots help plants absorb water and nutrients from soil. It is less known, though, through their roots, plants literally pump energy-rich organic substances into the soil, providing a welcome source of food for soil microorganisms.
It turns out that root exudates are probably the best way to support soil life. Bacteria and fungi thrive in close proximity to roots, and plants in turn benefit from their presence.
The roots of various plants do not differ only in shape or their ability to create supplies in the form of tubers or storage roots, but also in the type of substances they can make available for microorganisms. We can say that each deals with a specific spectrum of microbes. The more plant species in a field, the more diverse community of soil microorganisms will be.
The formation, maintenance, and proper function of soil is not possible without soil organisms. An army of microbes and tiny soil animals is our best ally that happens to work for free and never disappoints. It is therefore worth taking care of soil and the landscape in a way that does not obstruct their good work. It will save us enormous costs and a lot of trouble. They help us tackle such fundamental problems as feeding the world and climate change.
Problems with soil and its structure cannot be solved by anyone else but those who manage it. Owners, tenants, farmers. Soil organisms are very well suited to help us. We only need to provide them with enough organic matter as a source of food, energy, and material, and to take care of proper landscape structure. It is only up to us to give them a chance. After all, it is a chance for all of us.
Ay, 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 ay.